Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great Wednesday. I am here on Wednesdays always for our member spotlight where we get to drop in on one of our members in their studio and learn about their creative journey and all about their business, see some of the new things they're working on, and just get inspired by all of our incredible members here at Craft Industry Alliance, where we have 1,760 incredible people who are all business owners working away and just inspiring one another and helping one another in community every single day, which is a huge part of our mission and something we are just so proud of. So today we're going to be talking with someone who I've known for a very long time, Wendi Gratz. And Wendi has an incredible business, and I know you're going to love seeing the adorable and beautiful things that she makes. Hey there, Wendi. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm great, and I see your latest quilt with all of the bird species behind you.
Yep, that is my latest big release. So it's a mix and match pattern, which was really fun to do. So it's the same basic body shape, but then the pattern has all kinds of different tails and heads and breasts and bellies and wings and shoulders so that you can mix and match them and make just about any kind of songbird you can imagine. I've made about 110 different birds with the pattern. So
That is so incredible. And you really excel at creating these patterns. I don't know if there's a specific name for them, but they're basically like a block where the background is one color and then on it, maybe applique on it, is something else. And there are all these thematic ones. You have one, for example, that's all monsters.
yep.
That is incredibly cute and adorable. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones as well, in various themes. And so do you know, is there like a name or a genre of quilt that is called, or is it something you invented?
It's just an applique quilt, but I do think that mine are a little different looking in that I think of them like little photos. So the face is almost always cropped in the block some way, chopped off, usually around the shoulders. I kind of want it to look like a yearbook page or something like that, where you've got all of these different faces. I like to zoom in on the face whenever I can. Some animals don't lend themselves to that. Like I did a chameleon block recently. I've got one here that to make it really look like the chameleon, I wanted to show the whole body. I wanted to get that curly tail in there, but usually I do like zoom in on that face.
Which is so funny because it also kind of looks like a Zoom screen.
Yeah.
Now that we're all on Zoom all the time, but that's amazing. And so which of them has been, I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, so which of them has been the most popular of all of the kind of applique quilt patterns that you've created?
There's three that sit right at the top and they just kind of shuffle between each other. So the cat's quilt and the dog quilt, and then I have one that's called Woodland Critters that's all kind of forest animals. But a lot of people get the cats and dogs. I do everything based on the same 10-inch block for all of my quilt patterns, so you can combine them. So a lot of people get the cats and the dogs and mix them together in the same quilt.
Right. And you often in your newsletter, you have a wonderful newsletter that you send out every week, so people can go sign up for that. But you often in your newsletter highlight customers who have made a quilt for a special occasion. A lot of times it's a baby gift, I find.
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, and they've just come up with such great combinations and color choices.
It's so much fun. That is really my favorite part of designing patterns, is getting to see what other people have made. And people will do color combinations that I never would have thought of, or they just do really fun things. Like I made this little peekaboo mouse that could pop in, that you could mix in. I put him in the farm quilt pattern because I think there are mice all over farms, but a lot of people wanted that little piece. So I made it a separate pattern, and people put him in the cat's quilt all the time. So I did the same thing when I did the Arctic quilt. I put a little lemming. I did a full-size lemming so he could be in the photo lineup with all of the rest of the animals, but I also made a little lemming version so they could make him pop into kind of photobomb all of the other little critters.
I love that idea of photobombing. That's amazing. Yeah, and you have a Facebook group too where your customers hang out and share what they're making and inspire each other. And that's also a lovely place for people to kind of learn more about how to do this.
It is. It's just like everybody is really great, super positive environment. There are no quilt police there, so nobody is ever going to say anything about your your seams matching or anything like that. It's just, this is awesome, I love your colors. Or people will pop in there and ask about a technical question that they have, and a lot of times other people will answer it before I even get a chance to. So it's great. I love it.
And so people can find that by searching, is it just Shiny Happy People, or how do people find it?
It's Shiny Happy People, and I link to it every week in the newsletter too, because I usually am pulling those customer photos from that group, and so I'll link back to their original post and also just in general to the group so that people can, it is a private group, so you have to answer a question that let me know that you read the guidelines for the group, but I usually get people in there pretty quickly.
That's wonderful. And so you have lots of sewing patterns. You also design patterns for stuffed animals and for dolls. And you have a doll pattern too, where there's lots of different outfits for this doll, which is, I think, a really nice thing for people to sew. Mothers, grandmothers, all kinds of people who want to sew for a child who wants to be able to take the clothes off the doll, which is always the most fun part, and put on different clothes.
Right. And I design them especially to be easy to take on and off. I have some that have no fasteners on them at all, that just have an elastic, like a peasant dress kind of style. And the ones that do have fasteners, you can do snaps or Velcro, both of which are really easy for little hands. I don't do anything that needs to be tied on.
Right, exactly. I always loved that with my dolls when I was a kid. So I think this is a great way to make a handmade version of that for people to be able to share with someone in their life who might like a doll. And then you also, and this is more of a recent addition, although it's not that recent at this point, but you have crochet patterns too that are for amigurumi.
Yep. Crocheting was one of the first crafts I did as a kid, actually. I did not learn to sew. My mom had a treadle machine that really scared me, like an ancient treadle machine. And I just did not see how I could coordinate my feet and my hands both. So I never used that machine. I didn't learn how to sew until I was in college. But I did learn how to crochet really young. Before I knew how to read a pattern, I just learned how to do some of the basic stitches. And crochet is just, I like doing sewn stuffed animal patterns too, but it is so easy to crochet something in the round. You don't have to do darts, you don't have to do those wedge shapes. Just in terms of the geometry of it, it's just really easy to design and also for people to make. And a lot of people think that stuffed animals are harder to make than an Afghan or a scarf or something like that. But it's actually easier because the fail place for beginners when they're learning how to crochet are the sides. You either add or decrease stitches unintentionally. Right. And when you make stuffed animals like this guy, you're just crocheting in constant spirals. So that fail place
does that guy count as chunky crochet that you would
This is the original pattern. I just redesigned this recently to make him cuter. This is a free pattern at Shiny Happy World. He's very, very cute. But then my daughter just got home from college, and so she made him in big chunky yarn, which is even cuter. So,
oh my gosh, I love him so much. You guys have to go get that pattern. That is so adorable.
And that one's free. So
that one's free. So good way to get started.
And it's a really good one for beginners too, because it uses, there's only a couple of basic skills you need to make most amigurumi, and this uses just a few of the most basic ones. You need to be able to increase and decrease and attach parts, and that's it.
Right. So if you start there, then you might get the confidence to move on, but you'll at least have made one with most of the main techniques.
Yep.
Right. And I love what you're saying around the fail place of crochet, because you're right, it is the edges. So this doesn't have that. So that's another bonus of doing this. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got in. We heard a little bit about your crafting as a kid, but how did you get into actually creating this into the business that it is now?
I worked for about 20 years in children's publishing, and I wasn't a writer. I was in a bookstore. I did the buying for our bookstore, and then I sold to the whole Southeast. But I love children's book art, and all of my favorite artists are children's book illustrators. And I've also always sewn and made things. And so it was when I was looking for something different and something that I wanted to be self-employed, and I like to teach. I used to teach German. I wanted something where I was working with beginners, and so I started by doing tutorials, video tutorials online. I was one of the first people doing craft tutorials on YouTube. And I designed all of my patterns to have links to those tutorials because I'm self-taught in all of these crafts. And it was really hard for me to learn from books because this was before the internet. So I was checking books out of the library to learn how to do this stuff. And those static images were so difficult to work with. And then I found Alex Anderson on
Oh,
TV.
yes.
And that was like having her sitting in my living room and showing me how to do things. And it was such a game changer for me. And I wanted to provide a really similar experience with my patterns. So I don't release a pattern until I have tutorials teaching every quill that you would need for that pattern.
That is incredibly helpful. I 100% agree. And it's great to know that if you wanted to get a pattern for the beautiful quilt behind you or any of the other patterns that you released, you are going to be supported with these video tutorials. So you're not going to be left to guess on how to do all of these steps.
I really believe strongly that your first project in a craft should just be something that you're excited about. It does not need to be a pot holder just because a pot holder is a small quilt project. It needs to be something you are really excited about, and you need to use fabric that you like. And so with my patterns, I wanted it, like each pattern is kind of a workshop. So you can start with any pattern you want. As long as you don't mind pausing and going back and watching the videos, you really can start from zero and make any of my patterns.
That's great. Yeah, because they're so much more motivated to complete something when you like the project and you like the materials. So that's really important. And really, none of these techniques are that hard, right?
No.
It's just that you need to be able to be patient with yourself and learn a new technique. But nothing is like beyond the capacity of a beginner. It's just you need to go slowly.
Yep. And I tell people if like what the weirdness is in a pattern. If it's something that I say is a little more difficult, I'll say it's only difficult because the pieces are smaller. So if you just unpacked your first sewing machine, you might want to start with one with bigger pieces just because that's easier to outline. But if you don't mind going really slowly, start with this one. So I tell you what's going to be the harder part of it, so you can judge for yourself whether it's something that you can, whether you're okay with just jumping into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding. You have all of these customers who have created truly astounding looking quilts and projects. So obviously these patterns are really working, and the video tutorial support is really helpful. And then you also sell, you're almost like a quilt shop. You sell a lot of supplies to get people started so they have exactly the right fabrics, exactly, the best marking tools, the best cutting tools, whatever the tools might be to accomplish these projects.
Yeah, I sell the tools that I use. And I used to live in a really rural area, and it was about an hour and 15 minutes to get to the nearest like big box fabric store, and forget about specialty kind of things. And so when I started selling some things that actually need to be shipped, that's what I started with, are the tools that I needed to go out and get. And so I only sell the things that I actually use. And the fabric bundles are really just, some people enjoy picking out fabrics and some people want to get right to cutting and laying things out. And so for the people that want to just jump right to putting the pieces together, I've got kind of pre-made bundles, especially if they're shopping online, because it's really hard to choose fabric colors for a coordinated collection off a monitor. And so I put collections together, and then I make samples in different things. So you can see, this is what the muted rainbow fabric bundle is going to look like, just the general look. So even if you don't make that exact pattern, you can see what that color palette looks like.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly helpful. I mean, to have everything all in one place and just to know that you have the right things and enough things to get started, I think it's great. And as you said, a lot of people live in rural areas or just don't live near a great store. So being able to just get this all in one place, and you are supporting a small business. It is e-commerce, but you're supporting one woman owned by a small business at the same time.
Yep, so, it's all me.
Yeah, that's terrific. And talk a little bit about kind of the mechanics of like your website and your e-commerce and some of the choices that you've made behind the scenes to get this all running. Because I think, when you are building a business, you do have choices and you also change over time. And figure out what works for you. So what have been some of like the backbone kind of behind the scenes business decisions that you've made that have worked?
So one of the best things I ever did was hiring Aolydia to design my website. I had one that I had designed myself because that's what we do when we're starting. And
DIY.
it got to a point where it was just very cobbled together with all of these parts, and it just wasn't working as well as I wanted it to. And then they got me to try Shopify, which I love Shopify. It just always works. I don't have to update anything. I never have to troubleshoot anything. It just always works. And that's kind of the best thing you can say about anything like that. So I am working with them now to make some updates. I brought everything into Shopify and Shiny Happy World, which functions as one website. But I have this one piece of things. I have a Quilt Block of the Month Club, and I have some longer video tutorials that every year I looked for a way to integrate that into Shiny Happy World, and I finally have something that I think is really going to work. So I'm working with Aolydia again right now to bring that piece in so that everything will be at Shiny Happy World. Right now I have some things on a site called Teachable, and it just means my customers have to have a separate login and password for that site, and that's a pain. So
yeah, right. I think that's great advice. I think, when you are first starting, it makes complete sense to DIY your site because you just don't know, number one, how much are you going to like doing this and for how long?
yeah.
And number two, is there going to be product market fit? Are people going to want to buy this product that you're offering? But a few years in, once you realize, actually, I love this and I'm in for the long haul and I really want this to be a good business that I can keep working on for a long time, and people seem to like what I'm offering, then you have a little capital maybe saved to invest from the business, and it's going to pay off in the end. Because when you have that really good user experience for e-commerce where you've got Apple Pay integrated or you've got Shopify payments integrated, and it's just one click on your phone and everything works and is organized in a way that makes sense for a newcomer to the site who's never been there before and wants to know immediately what it's all about.
Right.
That's what a web design company like Aolydia can provide. And so It really is it's not cheap, but it's worth that investment.
It is. And I do think that it's really important to have it something simpler first. Just do something out of the box or do something DIY, because you need to listen to your customers to know what you want. It is a big investment to have that designed by professionals. But they're basing their design on what you tell them. And so I needed to be listening to my customers and knowing what they wanted and where they were having hiccups in the whole process, to be able to tell them this is what I want it to look like and how I want it to function. So that first step is really important.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when you do employ, whether it's Aolydia or a different web design company, they're going to have you fill out this long survey or set of questions where you are telling them about your business and you really are guiding the process. Mm-hmm. And so if you are brand new and you don't know yet, that's really difficult to do. And you might end up with something that you didn't want in the end, not because they failed to do it properly, but just because you didn't know what you needed.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Okay, and I will link to Aolydia underneath this video so people can check them out if you want to. Shopify, also a really, really good tool. And are you still on Etsy or no?
I do still have a shop on Etsy, but I never ever send anyone there. So Etsy exists just to send people to me.
Got it. So it's a lead gen for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a great way to use Etsy if people want to sort of like, why not, right? Like have it there, but just use it to build your own customer base, because they're bringing customers in through their marketplace through search, sending them to you, and you want that second purchase after they've made the Etsy one to be directly from your Shopify site.
Right.
Very good.
So I consider Etsy a marketing expense. The Etsy fees and things like that, to me, that's a marketing expense.
Right. A great way to think about it. So, okay. So, Wendi, what is coming up or what is brand new so people can come and check it out? And then how can they learn more? What's the best way to follow along?
So the best way to follow along is to go to shinyhappyworld.com, and there's a space on there to sign up for my newsletter. That really is the best way to get all of the things that I do. Every week, the newsletter has what's new. It's got it's stuff from the archives. It shows things that other customers have made. Sometimes I tell you about recipes or good books that I'm reading.
Yep.
But that's the newsletter is the number one way. If you like social media, Instagram is the best way to find me there. And I'm under Wendi Gratz on Instagram. It's WendiGratz. And then I also have that Facebook group that is just a phenomenal. If you like seeing what people are making, that is just a really, really great group of super supportive, really creative, awesome people.
That's wonderful. And then the bird quilt is the newest product that's out. So people who maybe
Yep.
had checked in the past but want to come back, they can come check out this new quilt with the video tutorial supporting it and all of these variations.
Mm-hmm. And then the newest pattern I have is the chameleon pattern, but that's only for people in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club. So it won't be in the main shop for a couple of months.
Got it. Okay, they get early access. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Well, Wendi, this has been fantastic. I love talking to you. I'm inspired by all of your projects and the success of your business. And we love having you as a Craft Industry Alliance member. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.